So, if you're on Ethiopian social media at all, you've almost definitely heard the name Yonatan Derese. I mean, from those viral comedy skits to just dominating massive live audiences, he's a huge force in the creator space. But what really shaped the man you see on the screen? We're going to dive into his incredible journey and see how this unique mix of discipline and creativity built a star.
This is how Yonatan describes his own mother. Just let that sink in for a second. It's such a powerful image, right? A presence so commanding that words just weren't necessary. Her gaze was enough to set the rules, to show she approved, or, more often, to let you know a line had been crossed.
And that really brings us to the big question we're exploring today. How does a kid who was raised under that kind of watchful, silent authority become someone who can captivate thousands of people using just his voice and his personality? Let's try and connect the dots.
To really understand the creator he is today, we have to go back to the beginning, to the child. His earliest lessons, they weren't in some classroom. Nope, they were right within the walls of his family home, under a system of really strict but instructive discipline.
Now, to get his world, you first need to understand this term, a compound kid. Yonatan grew up in this massive family compound, just surrounded by aunts, uncles, cousins. His entire social world was already built in. He even says it himself. Why would I need friends? The compound was big, there were plenty of people to play with. It was a complete self-contained universe. And inside this universe, the rules were absolute. And honestly, nothing illustrates this better than a story we can call the radio incident. It all kicked off with a simple childhood thing. Yonatan saw a friend playing with a speaker magnet and just decided he had to have one. His target? The family's big, prized radio.
So get this, while his mom was out, he took the entire radio apart, found not one but two magnets, and went out to play. Of course, when his mother got home, all excited to listen to these new cassette tapes she'd just bought, the radio was dead silent and, well, light as a feather. The punishment was swift, and the consequence was permanent. No radio was ever bought for that house again. That was it. End of story.
So yeah, this whole incident, it really reveals the core principles of how he was raised. First, honesty was everything. Yonatan says lying just wasn't an option. You literally couldn't do it. And second, as that radio incident proves, every single action had a clear and completely unavoidable consequence.
So, how did this super disciplined kid turn into a public figure? Well, that's the next chapter. His creative journey wasn't some straight line. It's had these really distinct transformational phases, and each one kind of built on the last. You know, his path is actually a great map of the creator economy itself. A lot of us first knew him as part of the huge comedy group Abyssinia Vine. Then, during the pandemic, he pivoted to YouTube, creating this really wholesome, fun content with his family that just resonated with a massive audience. And today, he's completely reinvented himself all over again as a full-time, top-tier TikTok live streamer. And this is where the transformation is just wild. The interview hosts point this out. Back in the Abyssinia Vine days, he was known as the quiet one, super reserved. Now, fast forward to today, to succeed as a live streamer, he has to be the exact opposite. This high-energy, charismatic host who can engage an audience all by himself for just mind-boggling amounts of time.
Okay, so this brings us to his life right now. The reality of being a professional live streamer is way more intense than most people realize. It's basically a marathon of performance and constant engagement.
14. What's this number? Well, that is the maximum number of consecutive hours Yonatan can, and sometimes does, stream. 14 hours of being completely on. Just think about what that takes. It's not just sitting in a chair. It's a high-wire act. You need relentless energy. You've got to keep thousands of people watching, typing, sending gifts. You can't make a mistake, because you're live. The second your energy dips, that audience just scrolls away. It's an incredible feat of endurance and, frankly, mental fortitude.
So, how do we get from the kid who broke the radio to the man who can perform for 14 hours straight? This is where the two parts of his story just click together perfectly. The connection is one word: discipline. All those rules of the house, honesty, consequences, respecting boundaries, they weren't just about childhood behavior. In his mind, they were the training ground for developing the character he needs for his insanely demanding career today. And, Yonatan reflects on this himself, and he does not mince words. He looks back at the harsh discipline, the caning as he calls it, and he concludes that it all had a purpose. In his own words, it was to make me a person. It built his character, it taught him limits, and it gave him the self-control he relies on every single day. And all of this leaves us with a final, really fascinating question. I mean, Yonatan's story makes a compelling case for how strict, rule-based discipline can forge a character capable of incredible focus and endurance. But is it the only way? What do you think?